All right, Miss Hannah, we're about to fire off. So I'm going to introduce you to the entire hospital and everybody out in Facebook land. Okay?
Oh boy, you're being introduced.
Not sure she was excited about that.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, first and foremost, thank you. Thank you for coming to our observance, our Holocaust Days of Remembrance. Let me please introduce you to my new friend, Hannah Deutch. Hannah Deutch is a 100-year-old Jewish war veteran and Holocaust survivor. Over the last three weeks, I have been on the phone with her for at least 45 minutes to an hour just being enthralled with her story because she has one. Where she started and where she ended and where she is now. Right now, we are on this video call with Miss Hannah Deutch. She's in Margaret Tietz Nursing Home in New York. And so I want to say this is such a privilege, not only to know her, not only to talk to her, but be able to have her tell her story to our over 9,000 staff members for BAMC. Not only BAMC, but the installation and all of the partners here in Fort Sam Houston. So I want to thank you, Hannah. I think this is an amazing opportunity for our people, our staff, our service. And I'm going to be followed by my General Tahan.
Well, Hannah, my name is Brigadier General Deidre Tahan, and I'm really incredibly honored that you're with us today to tell us your story. With us today, we also have Major General Thigpen, who is the Commanding General of U.S. Army South, who really works with all of our country partners in Central and South America to make sure that we reach out as Americans and continue to grow and develop partnerships for peace around the world. And so we really appreciate what the story you're going to tell us today, and just incredibly honored that you're willing to spend your time with us. It is incredibly humbling that you're joining us and allowing us to learn from your experience. And I really don't want to take any more of your time up, but I just wanted you to know that we are incredibly humbled to be in your presence today, and we appreciate all your support. Thank you.
All right, Miss Hannah, the floor is yours. They're going to zoom in on my ugly face, so you're not looking at everybody's back of their head. Okay, but we have now reached capacity, and people are standing outside just to hear you.
You're on. You're on.
Didn't understand.
They said that everybody's out there waiting to hear from you now, so they want you to start your story.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry about the delay. My hearing aids are not my best friends. That's all I can say. I'm sorry. I'm very honored to be here, unexpectedly, because I got sick in October and I ended up here in this beautiful nursing home in beautiful Jamaica Hills in New York State. And this is my last stop. My apartment, I lived for 45 years, and it hurts me every day when I think of it, how nice it was. It's not only living in a place, you got to be involved. And I was involved in the community, involved in my synagogue, involved in the politics, and not always good. And I thought this would be missing, but I noticed now that I'm here and people are finding out now where I am, and that I'm still alive, that And well, I thought it would be the end, but I notice now that life is starting all over again. It's, it's I've been talking about the Holocaust, and every year I used to, on the Kehillah board, run the Yom HaShoah. Yom HaShoah is Hebrew for Yom is the day, and HaShoah is the HaShoah is the memory, the memorial. And you will find if you meet survivors, a lot of them surprisingly tell their story. So herewith I begin. I have a very big following. The following are the students in the public schools, in yeshivas, I had the teacher come here to visit me because the students wanted to see me. And she took out her iPhone, and here we were all together in one group. And see, I didn't lose anybody. And I make new friends easy. Thank God for that. That is so important. But you also have to have your own strengths. Well, I'm going to start from the beginning. My parents married in 1920, and as young marrieds, they moved to Munich. This is now Germany I'm talking about. And in 1921, there was a big bocce. I don't know if you know what a bocce is, but it's in the bar, a big, big fight. And who was it? That was Adolf Hitler. That was the first time we heard the name, but we didn't think of anything because Adolf Hitler was Austrian. He wasn't German. So he couldn't be part of Germany. Wrong. He worked and worked and worked. And he wrote a book of his plans, what he was going to do. It wasn't only the Jews. It was also gay people. It was the Romani. It was some Catholic priests. It was all in the book. And unfortunately, what is happening today, that the devil, Putin, is following that book. And that's where you have all these things going on in Russia. My parents left Munich and moved to Düsseldorf, where my mother opened a millinery store. She was a master of millinery, and my father was a businessman and was a manager in a big organization like Macy's that was all over the country. Tietz, the name that you find here, was like Macy's. It was all everywhere, and everybody bought there because they were honest people. Hitler came into power in 1936, but not the big power. It was with Hindenburg and all the others that finally left the screen. And he poisoned all the children. Boys had to be in the Hitler Youth, and the girls had to be in the BDM. BDM was Bund Deutscher Mädels. And there they had their uniforms. That's where they started, with the uniforms. After that, the next thing was that the grown-ups also got in uniforms. But there was a distinction. He had his elite who had black uniforms, and the public were mustard brown. In 1936, he entered the elections and won, but he wasn't the top man yet. But he did a lot of damage. Number one, he came from Austria, and he went into Germany. He took one country after another overnight. The troops, and that's what hurts me to say. When I see Trump with all these youngsters yelling for him, it kind of gives me the shivers, because that is the age when they start. In I'm not sure, 36, 37, he went one step further. He gave an order to make a bonfire in every town and city and burn all the books of Jewish authors and some Germans, which were Schiller and Goethe. They were like outstanding. So what happened? That's when Jewish people, started seeing what was happening, and they started to go to consulates to get numbers to be able to get out of the country. The thing is, not enough of them really thought that they thought it was just a passé, a windstorm going, and it would be all over. Not so. A lot of countries, including China and Japan, a lot of South American countries opened their doors, but people didn't know about it. So it took one person to see what went on and get involved. There are quite a few that we honor and that are no more. But they brought out thousands of people, not only children. So it came the night of the 8th to the 9th of November, 1938, the infamous Kristallnacht, where in every town they went around They broke all the windows of the stores, and a lot of Jews had stores. And before that, they had guards outside written on there, "Don't die here, Jew." So Jew was that. It's also the time where I was born a German citizen, where they took away citizenships and you became stateless. But that was a little later. From stateless, you asked the children where I speak. The title of their speech is Names, Not Numbers, because the Germans took away all the names, and the number that you see on a person's arm, that is the number. I'm going to jump a little and tell you, I was at a convention in Washington from the veterans, and I went to of course, to the Holocaust Museum. I had been looking for my family and couldn't find anybody on any list. And I went to the archives, and they had books like this. They couldn't be moved, they couldn't be listed. All you had to do is put in the name. I found each and every one of them by the name, date of birth, date of death, where they were killed, in which concentration camp, how they kept book. Any company would like to have that kind of a system that they had. So on the morning of the 9th of November, oh no, going back to the 8th at night, I'd gone to bed, and all of a sudden my bed was shaking. I said, "What's going on?" I woke up. My mother was sitting on the bed, and she was shaking. We lived here. The synagogue was across the street. It had a thing around it, but we lived above it, so we could see what was going on. The synagogue was burning, and it was like sunshine. And the people were making a lot of noise. And the fire department was standing out there with their arms crossed and never lifted a finger. I can tell you that in 1995, when I was invited by my hometown, I looked in the log of the fire department, and there it was. We got a call for a fire at that and that address, at that and that time, on that and that date. We went, we stood outside with crossed arms, and nobody lifted a finger. Luckily, there were a few people who were good, so they notified somebody, and we were able to save the Torah scrolls before the fire. I have to explain the Torah scrolls. Our listeners, the Old Testament, are the Torah scrolls. The New Testament were written after. All right. So the next morning, I went out. I wanted to see who was what, and I saw police cars that were that long, had a roof, no windows. And in that police car, 2 by 2, were all the Jewish men who had been arrested and were taken to jail. From that jail, a few days later, they were taken first. My stepfather was taken near Berlin, Oranienburg. Oranienburg? Oh. I can't think of that name. The men that went these were supposed to be the concentration camps, but they found out they did it too early. They weren't ready for it. So after 6 weeks, the men came back. And what happened then? All of a sudden it got empty around.
It's okay.
It got empty around me. Because overnight, people started walking. They walked over the mountains. They went to Switzerland and Holland and France. And if you've seen The Sound of Music, that was the true story of the Trapp family. And that's what happened to us. Only they were able to get out, and they're still running a hotel in the north of America. Now, I looked for friends. They weren't there anymore. We didn't know were they picked up and killed, or did they get out, or how, or what. The movie was made much later, so you had no idea what could have happened. So it went on. On the 28th, before the Crystal Night, on the 28th of October, there were a lot of Polish Jews in Germany, because Germany, after World War I, was the only country that accepted Jews. And now they deported all of them back. And there is a strip between Germany and Poland, which is called No Man's Land. My father's parents, my grandparents, lived on the other side of that strip, which was called East Prussia. And but it is a town that raised horses and nothing else. So I was spoiled. I used to ride in when I was 2 years old, I got a pony. And today I spoke to somebody. I'm trying to fight to get my heritage back. I don't want the land or anything, but I want the money for my family. And it's been going on for years and years and years. The trouble is that this part is now Poland, and Poland has no money. The German retributed, but where they're going to take the money from. And after I don't know how many years, the rumors and that Germany is going to take it up. Because after all, East Prussia was German. My father was born there. I have in my room upstairs my life story, my family's life story, which started in 1790, all German. Okay, all right. Now I'm going to jump. I'm going to jump to September 1, 1939, when the Second War was declared. But before that, no, I'm too fast. I was lucky enough, I was 16 years old to be chosen to go on the Kindertransport. Kinder is children, the children's transport. That means your children and giving them away to other people to raise. We had 3 days to prepare, and I had to go to Düsseldorf to get my birth certificates and what have you. And then where I've been on October 28th, seeing of the Polish people, I was on that same platform, and we all got into trains, and we had to go to Cologne. Coming to Cologne, we were in groups with leaders, and unfortunately, our leader was a young man who wasn't married and who had no idea of children. So being 16 years old, I kind of looked after the children on the transport. We arrived in London, not in London, we arrived in Harwich. And from Harwich, there was a double-decker bus outside that took us to London. And there we went into a big auditorium, and there were tables with goodies for the children and everything, and loads of people. And all the identification we had was a piece of string on our neck, like a necklace, with a piece of cardboard with a number. And we couldn't figure it out. But once we got to the hall and we saw all these people, and they were all with the same thing around their neck. That's how they put the children together with the people. I was 16, cutoff day. I was lucky, thank God, that I was on that transport. So I had no foster care, I had no boarding school, I had no camp, I had nothing. The children were hanging onto my skirt, didn't want to go with strangers. We had been on a 3-day journey, and I'd looked after them. They already were attached to me. I was the only one with 16. All the others were much younger. And the crying, and are we there yet? When is my mother going to come? When is this and when is that? Uh, it was pitiful. Just control yourself a little. But I held on that platform so I wouldn't cry. Once I got on the train, I broke down. So they were putting the children together with these people, and all of a sudden, the hall was empty. There was nobody there, not one soul. And I said, dear God, what now? I have 10 marks. I don't know the language, learn French. What's going to happen to me? And then about a quarter of an hour, and feel like a day, somebody came and they said they got stuck in the traffic. And it was a bad day of fog, which is always bad in England. She took me to the boarding house. She was from the committee, from the Kindertransport Committee. They had sent her to pick me up, take me to this boarding house. And they treated me like each and every person there were my mother and my father. They were wonderful. I had to go for an interview to the Kindertransport, and they asked me, what, we are going to put you through a test. What would you like to be? I said, well, I always wanted to be a doctor, a medical doctor. But can you keep me in medicine and make me a nurse? So, of course, they spoke German. And not a few days, I was taken to a hospital, put in a uniform, and I was as a probationer nurse. Okay, this remember, is beginning of February 1939. On the 1st of September, war broke out. And London became empty. The British children are brought up in boarding schools. So they don't have the problem that our parents have here, daycare, or find somebody, or get the grandparents, or whatever you do. That's what it was. And the hospitals were evacuated, the schools were evacuated. Everything that could be evacuated was evacuated. Was mainly from, oh my God, what did I do? I jumped from Germany to England. And I told you about the train.
Yeah.
That train took me to England. The boat took me from Germany to England.
So after the war broke out.
I got stuck.
After the war broke out.
Right. You're talking about the war broke
Yeah.
out. And that you were a preliminary nurse.
Whoever could
Mhm.
joined the military. Those who were not accepted because maybe they had flat feet or something, they were much braver. They became ARP wardens. as soon as war was declared, every house had a shelter. Underneath in the cellar, there were public shelters. And these were the people, they got the people off the street into the shelters. Because we knew that the bombing was going to. All right. It brought something else. It brought a tribunal for us. But I have to tell you, in England, we don't have names for various sorts of immigrants. We were all refugees. It didn't matter where in the world you came from, you needed help, you were a refugee. The people in other countries joined our military. Canada, Australia, all the ones that were of British Crown. And we were one free this and free that. And then, of course, you had a Mussolini and a Petain.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Good. You gonna take a little water? You want a drink? It's a lot of talking, right? Mhm. Okay, I'll hold on to it over here. So
So where were you of?
you were all considered refugees.
Hmm?
You were all considered refugees. Anybody?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right?
So I went to the hearing, and I don't know why. As a Jewish child, I was made an enemy alien. There were categories A, B, C. To this day, I don't know. I know we had German hospitals in London. They had a lot of connection with Germany, which they all should have been interned. Internment camp is not a concentration camp. You are free to live. You're not touched, you're not this, you're not that. They came, I was evacuated with the hospital to the seaside, and that became protected area. And the protected area didn't allow for refugees to be there because they were afraid that Hitler would come in through the water. We were evacuated to Bognor Regis, which is a seaside resort like Atlantic City, and dangerous. So I had a second, no, not yet. I was, we were put on boats, and I was taken to the Isle of Man. The Isle of Man is a beautiful Greek, like a Greek isle, in the middle of the Irish Channel. And people lived downstairs, then you had the cliffs, and people lived upstairs, just like in Greece. And I was assigned, I think I was the only one from my hospital. I was assigned to that island, and they took us with a ferry from England to There they treated us beautiful. We lived in, well, think of Atlantic City, 2 rows along beaches with hotels. I had my own room in the best hotel. And the only thing that they had to do was keep your room clean, and then you had to cook for everybody, you know. You took turns. I went to the hospital and I asked if I could finish my training in the hospital. And they said yes. So I was out of that and I continued on. I was there for a whole year. And then I had another tribunal. And on that tribunal, they cleared me. And they said, but you cannot go back to London. You have to go to Manchester. And in Manchester, they had hostels. And that's where they took me. And I met some of my friends from my hometown. I finished my studies and I sat for my RN and I passed. Thank you. And by this time, it is October 41. I had to wait for a while, but the thing was that I said, what am I going to do? I don't want to stay in England, not in England, yes, but not in London with the bombs. And I said, England, what I didn't tell you is it was a House of Lords. You have the House of Lords and the House of Commons, which are the Democrats and the Republicans. And it was the House of Lords that decreed to bring 10,000 children to England. And it didn't take them long. People pay £50 to get a child and raise it. The people were fantastic. I said, what now? I said, England saved my life. I owe England. What am I going to do? I went and I joined the military. I joined the army. And the fight began. Had an interview with the commanding officer. She said, what would you like to be? A cook or a batwoman? That was all that you could be. A batwoman is somebody who's a servant to the officers. I said, neither. I said, I have an RN. I want to be a nurse in the army. And if you can't take me in the army, I said, let me go and I'll be a nurse outside. So she said to me, she had a lot of empathy. She said to me, come and see me in 1 week. I went back in 1 week and she handed me a letter from the Pentagon, well, the equivalent of the Pentagon, which said, you may take this person and have her installed as a nurse. And we will decide later if we're going to make it permanent. Well, apparently I did a good job because we had nurses, not only women, men too, medical corps. And so I was a guinea pig. So a very happy guinea pig. My life in the army were the 3 best years of my life. Should not only, yes, I shouldn't only say the army, because in England, in really in Europe, if the country wasn't like France or Italy, and they didn't go with Hitler, then they were with you. And we knew what was coming. Anyways, I did my training, and then I was assigned to Wales, to the Welsh Fusiliers, which Shamrock was a white goat that used to get their ears painted gold on holidays. It was one for all and all for one. The only thing that I had, as far as anti-Semitism is concerned, was the stupidest thing that you could possibly think, and said, how did she ever get into the army? I was stationed in London where I wasn't supposed to be, and I was a company nurse, and we were sitting around the fireplace. We had a new person who befriended me immediately. And one night we're sitting there and everybody's around me. And she came out with a remark, I hate the Jews. And everybody went. And I turned to her and I said, why do you hate the Jews? All Jews have horns. In the Middle Ages, that's what they. So they, not I, talked to her, and they put her in her place, and she became the best that you could have. Stations at back entrance to Buckingham Palace was a hospital. Today is a hotel. And on not Marble Arch, on the Hyde Park corner, if you ever been to, for those who have ever been to London. And the bombs were flying. And as an officer, I had to do my officer's duty. And we were outside one evening, and the sirens went off, and my sergeant was with me. And we hear the planes, and we hear this plane going over, and you see at the tail end of the plane, there was an exhaust that was white and round. And there was a policeman across the street, and I called him over to stand with us. And then that white smoke stopped. And we were standing there waiting for the bomb to come down. And nothing happened. But a few minutes later it happened. And the next day we heard in the on radio and the paper that it was the first buzz bomb, which was different to the other. The other bombs went down. These went this way. We were also bombed out, but I got all my people out, down the stairs, out on the street. And I tell you, I'm so proud of it. An hour later, Churchill came to visit us in his siren suit with a big cigar. That was something that brought all of us. Another thing that made us all very proud was that the Ak-Ak, the big, but you shoot, big,
Call it.
in Hyde Park, they had all over these things to shoot at the planes.
Right. Yeah, have a little one.
But all these machines, guns,
Oh, the guns.
Oh,
That's easy
God.
enough.
all these guns, they're handled by the military women. Women. Now, soon after, the foreign military arrived, the Canadians, the Australians, everybody arrived into London. And we had a Jewish Forces Club. That's where we used to get together. And that's where I met my husband. And we got married in 1943. And he got wounded in Dieppe. And I went to Birmingham to see him in the hospital, but nothing much he could do. In 1944, I became pregnant. Oh, I forgot to tell you. I finally became the citizen with getting married. I became a Canadian citizen. Yeah. That was changed later. They had to be in the country like everybody. But they got me out. They got me out in time as a war bride. And I went on a ship with a convoy. Can you imagine a convoy around a ship of flyers going on leave and pregnant women and women who had other children who had to have them in bed with them in the bunk because there wasn't enough room. And you had to be in Canada by the time you were 6 months. No, not 6 months. 4.5 months pregnant. Otherwise, you had to wait it out in England.
Back in England.
I tell you, we needed permission to get married. We needed permission from the HQs. So I got permission from the Kindertransport and from the officers, and my husband got the same. And it came Passover, just before Passover. And the chaplain told us to go to the synagogues. We would be taken home for the Seder. They took home some GIs also. And right away, as it is with with Jewish people. They try to get people together. So I said, I'm engaged.
Already spoken for.
So I said, oh, we have friends in London. They will do they asked me, who's doing the wedding during a war, during a blitz? What do you mean during the wedding? We're going to the rabbi's office and we get married. Oh no, we have friends in London. They have no children. And in the Jewish religion, there's nothing more sacred than to make a wedding for somebody else. So they got in touch with us. I'm going over everything that happened in between. And then I tell you, it came the week before the wedding. I had my papers, my husband didn't have them. I was in London. I went to the Canadian HQ. I said, where are the papers? We have no papers. I said, well, you better have papers. So they said, I said, you better have a look on everybody's desk. It's got to be somewhere. We only have a week. Now I'm jumping to my wedding day. And the couple, the men, walked me down the aisle. And the doors opened. And I have a full synagogue with about 250 people. So then they invited everybody to their house. I was staying already at the house for a week because my leave was an hour, a week longer than my husband. You know, London lived on, you ever heard of Black Market?
Yes, yes.
I'm sure the military has. And that's the only way you were able to eat anywhere you could go. I know anyways, they had invited all their friends and their families, and in the rest of the evening, we were given a check which let us go to Edinburgh, Scotland, and have a honeymoon for 2 weeks. So we got to Edinburgh, and Edinburgh had pulled in the carpets. 9 o'clock, it was dead. There was nothing to do. And we were on a honeymoon. So I said, we're not staying here. We're going back to London. London on Trafalgar Square, even if you haven't been, I'm sure you heard of Trafalgar Square, where little houses like you have here on Times Square, information and all that. And there were tickets, free tickets for the military from all the theaters, the opera, the ballet, for everything. Everything was good. And every night we spent in the theater in a wonderful honeymoon. But we had to eat continuously Chinese. We love it because the only thing you could get the rice to fill, you had to have coupons for everything. Everybody got coupons for sugar, for flour, for for this and for that. And so we had no coupons. So we had to be fed somehow. So that's what happened. So I'm going to jump now back in camp. Back in camp, and I'm pregnant and I give birth.
Oh, fine. It's 3. It's 3 o'clock. We're just checking the time. It's 3 o'clock now. But that's okay. You
I'm
continue.
finished?
No, you finished. You continue. Well, when you're finished. Okay.
You're back in camp.
Where did I
You're
live?
back in camp.
Back in camp now. After the wedding.
Oh, I
You jumped.
yeah. So I the next thing was that I got a boat out of England
Oh.
to Canada. And I had wonderful in-laws that when we got engaged, they sent me pictures and welcomes and for the engagement and to the family. And they're all gone. That is my second Holocaust. But they didn't die of the Holocaust. They came from Russia. They had been through pogroms. They had been through a lot. My husband was born in Russia and was a year old when they came to Canada. And my mother-in-law had 4 brothers. One came out and brought out one after another. So the Seder, you can imagine what it looked like. Big, big family. And I was so happy. So then I gave birth in April of 45, and I nearly died. I got thrombosis. I was operated. Anyways, that's passé. My oldest son is, in the meantime, 77 years old, and the younger one, 2 years younger. He's here in New Hampshire, and my older one is in Canada. But I got to tell you a story. We're a military family. My father, Olaf Bischoff, was in the German army in World War One. I was in the British Army in World War II. My older son went to Israel and fought in the Israeli army for the 6-day war. When he came back, and luckily my younger one was in college and exempt. Otherwise, he would have been in Vietnam. So thank God there, at least. Enough of the dead. While in Canada, I went every month to the Canadian Jewish Congress to look up the lists of survivors. I didn't find anybody. I found a second cousin and her daughter. They had lived in Holland. I found them on the list. They had been in concentration camp in Holland, and they came here. Friends brought them over. And that is the reason why I came here, because I had no blood relatives in Canada. And I needed, she was like a mother to me. My mother got my stepfather out of concentration camp. And 2 days later, they went on the last boat to Chile. Okay. So when he passed away in 1949, and the children were 2 and 4 years old. And I packed up and I went to Chile. And I worked for the United Nations as an interpreter. I sold Israel bonds for $2 million. But there was an inflation. It took me 5 years to get enough money together to buy tickets. So finally, 1955, this is 49 to 55.
6 years.
I came back to Canada, and I worked for the Jewish community, equivalent of Federation, UJA,
Right.
and I went and got a few more credits, and I became a social worker. And I worked with the Baron de Hirsch Institute. We also worked together with the different departments, and we had an apartment there that had offices here that used to help people get jobs. So to be able to come to the States, I had nobody with money. I couldn't do anything. So I spoke to the director and I said, can you get me a letter that I have a job? I say, I'm not going to bother them. I'm not going to be there. I don't care where it is. Just to get out. I want to get my second mother. It didn't take him long. He brought me a letter. I had a job as an accountant. Oh, I forgot to tell you. While in Chile, I went to college and I became an accountant. Well, but you turn with the winds. Where it's necessary, it's necessary. Non-profit organizations don't pay all that much. And I had 2 children to bring up. So the letter was to an accounting firm in New Jersey. I didn't want to be in New Jersey. I had friends here that had a 2-family house, but couldn't rent because they only had one entrance. So it was only considered a one-family house. And we went to school together. We were friends for so many years. I used to come from Canada here and stayed with them for vacations. So I was staying with them in vacation, and I was talking to them, how much is the rent, how much is food, how much this. I want you to try and work out a budget. What do I need? So they said, we can help you. You can have the apartment upstairs and we won't charge you much. But we can't do more than that because what?
Like,
Never mind.
they weren't going to charge you much.
I
but
don't
that's-
remember.
But
They
you went,
couldn't. No, they couldn't give me a guarantee. That's a guarantee. They had a guarantee that somebody else were guaranteeing for your upkeep
Right.
You are not going to get Social Security or anything from the government, okay? So that was that. So I never went, I never spoke to them, nothing. But the director who gave it to me, I found out it was his brother-in-law who was an inspector for the IIS who got me that letter.
Okay.
I was lucky. God was with me. So I came here and I had a letter from the director and I went down to the employment office. And they sent me to an advertising agency. And they were looking for a comptometer operator. I hadn't even heard what the comptometer was. What I said, I don't care. I'll take it, and I will prove to them I'm worth my money. So I went for the interview, and I had a very understanding young woman who was a vice president. And I told her, everything is I'm telling you. And she said, I want you to sit here. I want to go and see somebody. So I'll be right back. So she went, and it took a while, and she came back. She said, I have a job for you. She said, he wants to see you. So I went up for an interview, and what it was the International Accounting Department, where you had to convert. We had offices all over the world. And I don't think of the name. I had my medal on.
JTW.
Anyways, it'll come to me.
Is it the JTW, Hannah?
What?
JTW? J.
The medal I showed you.
JTW?
J. Walter Thompson,
Ah, there you go.
the largest
JWT.
advertising agency in the world. So my job was, we used to do insurance for every employee in the world. It had to be converted every month from their money into our money. It was a very interesting and very responsible work. So, anyways,
I think they have to get.
like everybody else, I got stuck in the job. You never want to make a shirt.
That's right, that's right. I think they want to end the program a little bit now. So
This continue now.
I think we're gonna end a little, so I think you
Yeah.
have to,
Ask them if they can
you could ask. What?
make a continuation, so at least we can do the end of it.
Oh, okay. So I'm Linda Spiegel. I'm one of the directors here at Margaret Tietz. And we all love Hannah here. We're so glad that you asked her to speak today, how important it was for you to hear her story and for so many to hear her story. And she's wondering, we know the time is limited. She's wondering if she's able to continue at another time or later on so that she could finish the few last sentences she wanted to state. So that's up to you and your time frame and how it might work out. We know everybody is on a time schedule.
This goes back to 1955.
Ah,
So, a lot of years left.
so let us know what you think at this point, please. And Hannah would be glad to continue taping or whatever you think we might do.
Yep, keep going, ma'am. We are,
It's on
We're-
Facebook. So anybody can
Yeah.
go up.
They
We're-
said that you can finish. If you want to continue, you can continue.
Oh, Okay, yes, thank thank you. you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay, very good.
Okay. I'll be as short as possible. So advertising agencies gain jobs and lose jobs, gain 2,000 people and lose 2,000 people. So I was laid off after I was there 10 years. And we had just gone on the stock exchange and the stocks were very high. So there was my nest egg. That was very, very good. So it wasn't 55. What am I saying? Yes, of course, my husband was already dead when I worked there. Okay.
How old?
I needed another job. And I went to this agency who got me the first job. And I got an interview. And because in the international accounting department, because of my background, they hired me. I had an interview with the manager of the department, and he said to me, he said, I don't have the job for you yet. It'll be another 3 or 6 months. But will you be willing to help all my other people with their jobs? I said, I will. And that's exactly what happened. But that agency was Dun & Bradstreet.
Oh,
I don't know, the younger people won't know Dun & Bradstreet.
I think most people know Dun & Bradstreet. It's pretty
That
famous.
was the only company that gave credit recommendations.
Mhm.
So without them, nobody could have had any business whatsoever. So I started there, and I was. We were able to buy their shares, so I was handling the employees could buy shares,
Oh, so you.
so I was handling that. Then I was promoted to administrator of the business and administration departments. No, not business and administration. Business, the personnel
Oh, personnel.
department.
Okay.
Okay, then it came to pensions and profit sharing, and all that. Now after 10 years, I retired. It was too much. It's too much pressure, too much everything. Had the children to bring up, had to bring enough money in. It's just, my husband had died, and that's when I picked up. And I went to Chile. So I was there 5 years, and I came back. And I came back to the Jewish community. But you know, they don't make money, non-profit
Right, no.
organizations.
Not for profit.
So you can't really live it. So there came the time, my older son, got scholarship to Israel, and he left. The younger one was with me, and he was at the time in high school. He was 14 when we came here, and he was exempt because of the Vietnam War. And what now? Came time for college. So, and then all of a sudden, I had an empty nest.
Mhm.
I'm sure you all know what that is. And it was hard. It's hard. I don't know. It's like somebody getting married. It's thrown out of your. So I said, okay, you better stop crying and get yourself something to do that is worthwhile and keeps you occupied. I joined Remembrance, and I became. Remembrance has three lodges and chapters of people that were already members in Europe. And our parents, when they came here, they started new chapters. And we had 600 women and 700 men.
Wow.
So I was there 2 years, and I became president. And I was president for 2 years. Then from there, where did I go? I did a lot. I joined Jewish war veterans, of course. The Jewish war veterans I joined already when I was 8 years old. My father was a veteran, and they had a branch in Germany, whereby we kids couldn't go and do anything, and they had a house with a gym, with everything. So they let us use it. So that then in England it wasn't the Jewish warriors, it was the survivors, and we're still working with them. Then when in Chile I joined Hadassah, and I couldn't get into Benebras. They have the old black. Everybody, they had black and white balls, and everybody has to accept the member.
Oh.
So when you're black balls, you're out.
You're out, right.
I couldn't get in because my father wasn't alive. So when I came back to Canada, that's the first thing I did. I joined, and I was president the following year. I don't know, wherever I go, I somehow or another, I don't push myself or anything. But I have to have something.
Yes.
Then I got involved in the community, in the Kehillah, that's a Jewish organization, in the Democratic Party, in whatever I could do. I lived alone. Don't forget, my children were out. I had to have something besides just work, and work.
Right.
And I had to meet people. People I met, and very famous people. And and I had famous people in my groups, like Henry Kissinger was a member of his parents. You would know.
Yeah, sure.
And,
Sure.
and I met a lot of nice people. And then I worked too hard. My job had a lot of demand. A lot of money was going through my hands. And I got equilibrium trouble. But I had to work for a year to be eligible for my pension. So I had to remember not to look up, not to move this way or that way.
Aye, that's hard.
It was a hard year. And my son went 1 year to Brooklyn College, and he didn't like New York. I don't know why. But he went to New Hampshire. Went to college there, got married there, lives there now, still. And the older one came back from Israel, and it was Vietnam time, and I couldn't get an exemption. I went down to Times Square to the military office, and they said, "Lady, send him home." So he went back to Canada, established himself, and did very well, and retired. And my younger one promised me. No, he didn't promise me. He did. he retired last year. Yeah, don't forget they're 75 and 77 years old. So I'm 109 months. And I pray that I see 101.
Yeah.
So that is my story. But I keep in touch with all the things I have done. I've met a lot of people who keep in touch with me, and especially the Jewish war veterans, because we veterans went through so much. We are so close to each other that it's for many, it's a support. Quite a few married women survivors, and another few, and I have friends among them, and it kills me to this day. They were liberators. They liberated the concentration camps, and they were chosen for this special thing because of languages coming from different countries. And they tell their stories. One just recently died. Yeah, they're now in their 90s, and the other one isn't well. And every time I hear these stories, and I can see the pictures in front of my eyes, and I'm thinking of my family. I told you, I only found out how old my family was when I went to Washington. My grandmother was born in 1865. So they were in the 60s and 70s. Besides the children, my little cousin, 2 years old, what did he ever do wrong? He killed all the children. But thank God, Israel making sure they replaced them. Yes. I have great uncles and aunts who went to Palestine in 1933, and they helped working and establishing the country. So
All right, we're gonna end.
I think that I'm still here, and I hope I'm still be here for a few years. And I pray to God that He lets me keep my noodle. As long as I have that, and I can remember.
I agree. Miss Anna, I'm going to speak for everybody here because I don't think we have time for everybody to come up and talk to you, but you are an absolute treasure. And I can only humbly thank you for coming here and telling your story to the entire staff and the community that we have here. And the team that put this on and has been working with you, and on behalf of General Tahan, who's going to come up after me and say a few words, we want to give you a certificate of appreciation for dedicating your time to spreading your knowledge, your history, your life with us. And humbly, we want to thank you. So thank you so much for your time, Miss Hannah, and I'll be followed by our hospital general.
Again, thank you so much for spending time with us today. We really appreciate it. I can tell you, people were sitting on the edges of their chairs listening to your story, and really, I think we're all better off from hearing how you persevered and how you were constantly able to reinvent yourself from a nurse to accountant to a community leader to really continue to serve as you move through your life and your journey. And we just want to say thank you. And again, we'll send you that certificate in the mail, but we just are really incredibly appreciative of your time today. And on behalf of Brooke Army Medical Center, thank you so much and have a wonderful day. Thank you. There, you got a standing ovation in the room, ma'am. There's a standing ovation.
They're standing and clapping for you, hon.
What?
They gave you a standing ovation. All right, that's great.
Can I say a couple of words of thanks?
Absolutely. I'm still here, Hannah.
Go ahead, Hannah.
I am flabbergasted. I really am. And with all the awards I've been getting over the years, I think this is the most important of all of them, because I thank all the doctors and the nurses, and trauma is a very, very difficult part of medicine. And to save just one life is a God-given thing. So thank you so much to all of you, not only doctors and nurses, but the military as well as the civilians. Thank you for coming and thank you for listening to my story.